So, hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm just going to make a quick introduction and I'll hand over to the team at Summit International School. But yeah, just again, thank you very much for joining. It's going to be a really interesting session. I'm really interested to hear what Summit International School do with ExactPath, and I've seen a few snippets. It's going to be really good. If you have any questions, there is a Q&A button on your screen. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to share them with us and we'll answer them towards the end of the presentation. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you all. So over to you.
All right. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Lee Dabagia. I am the principal at Summit International School, and these other lovely people are my team. Guys, go ahead and start with you, Mr. Jeff.
Hey everyone, yeah, I want to echo saying thank you for joining us today. It's really a privilege to have you. I'm the vice principal at Summit, and I'm going to be talking to you about how we designed our data discourse to implement ExactPath into our classrooms and community. So I'll be talking to you a little bit later about data.
Hi everyone, my name is Samara Bereke. I'm the Director of Assessments and Student Services at Summit International School. And today I'm going to show you how Edmentum became part of our internal assessment practices and policies. Ian?
I am Ian Power. I'm a regular grade 5 math teacher, but I'm also the go-to guy for all ExactPath problems, queries, challenges that we face in the school. And I am kind of in charge of the challenges we set kids and trying to encourage participation and checking out how we're doing each week and each month.
All right, thanks. Let's get started. Okay, so because I loathe people reading slides to them, I will not do that, but this is our climbing path for today. You're going to hear a lot of kind of climber technology or climber language. We use it every day with our students and with our teachers, and really ExactPath for us has been a bit of a climb. It's been a guided pathway thanks to the people at Edmentum, but we've also had to kind of blaze our own trails as well. So I'll give you a little bit about our history, why we feel we needed ExactPath, how we looked at ourselves and why we discovered that the data from ExactPath was going to work very well for us, how it changed our vision and mission, our everyday behaviors, what we then did with it, how we use it in the classroom, how we use it outside of the classroom, and then of course how we try to keep it exciting, because at first there was a lot of excitement around it, and then with anything with students things tend to fall off, but thanks to Mr. Ian there, we are still managing to keep things exciting, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that today. So we are an American curriculum private school. We're in the center of Abu Dhabi. We are right next to the main post office. It puts us in a very residential neighborhood, and it's unique. We originally were in a old school building that has since been torn down, but our location gives us 30 countries worth of students. We have over 932 now. And so that means everybody's ELL. Our third largest population is Filipino. So while they may be native speakers, their learning has ELL behaviors and characteristics to it. So those are some of the challenges that we face. Our school had been weak up until about 2017. And in the last 4 years, thanks to ExactPath, thanks to Mr. Jeff, Ms. Summer, Mr. Ian, we have, and our teachers as well, we've moved the school into the A range with the local IRTA inspection. In 2018, 2019, we did away with textbooks. We don't use them for English, for math. We use online resources for science, but otherwise the teachers source all of their lesson plans themselves. And then of course, our Ministry of Education, we have to use the books because you know how that goes. Those of you who are local, those who aren't, we are forced as by law to happily teach Arabic language, Islamic education, and Arabic social studies. And so they provide books for that. Part of this change was, of course, we had to buy Chromebooks. We have about 850 of them currently. We do not let the kids take them home, although during the pandemic, we have loaned them to some of our families who are in need. We do pride ourselves on being digitally literate from KG all the way through grade 9. So our KG students are on the touchscreen Chromebooks using them at least twice a week. So let's look at what the inspectors had to say. Of course, this inspection was a good one for us, as you can see in the right hand there. But we took away the things we needed to work on, which was that our students didn't have endurance for reading, and they didn't like to read, nor could they comprehend it well. They couldn't do math. Everybody was doing slow math, finger math, calculator math. We needed something where they would get more practice in. That our teachers were only teaching the center of our students and not catching the climbers who were struggling to get up the mountain, and not catching our achievers who were already moving up the rope by themselves. Also that our teachers were not as familiar with the curriculum as they should have been. An exact path literally puts the curriculum in your face so you can see the American Common Core curriculum. We use California for those of you who are wondering. And that we also determined that our assessments were not producing reliable data. I'm talking about our local assessments that were written by our teachers and that had been used for the prior 6 years before this team was assembled. So we needed something reliable to look at assessment wise, and we needed some data that we could trust, that we could believe in. And once we started to work on all those things, we went back to the staff and said, what do we want to change about our school? So there you have the vision and the mission. And the watchwords there, again, I'm not going to read to you, are individualized learning. We wanted opportunities for growth. We wanted the children and the students to know themselves what growth means for them. We wanted to give them confidence and allow for creativity to solve their own problems. As well, we believe that happy environment is a better learning environment. I think that you all would agree with us there. But that everybody has an individualized learning path. And Mr. Jeff is going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about our parent teacher days. So, Ms. Summer, do you want to pick it up from here?
Yes, thank you. So after we created the mission and the vision with the teachers that we have in school, we reflected on the practices going on inside the classrooms. And so we came up with a 4-step climb that revolved around warm-up, active learning, use of technology, differentiation, and check for understanding. And here we question the differentiation more because teachers have different experiences with differentiation. So, and the challenging part was that teachers had to base their differentiation based on reliable data, but unfortunately our internal assessments did not reveal reliable data. So what we did here is we looked at our external benchmarking, which is the MAP data there, and we shared with our community of parents some very interesting information that Mr. Lee is going to expand more on.
Okay, so what we discovered after we looked at our MAP scores, the school had been kind of practicing with MAP for a couple of years, and this 2018, we looked at the MAP scores, we dove into the data, we learned what was significant about it. And what we discovered was that our MAP data was here as far as grade level is concerned, and our in-class levels were way up here. In fact, they were closer in grades 1 and 2, and as the students got older, the gap got wider to a point where our 8th grade students were scoring MAP at a 5th grade level, yet somehow they were getting A's at 8th grade curriculum. So there had to be a problem, and we knew that. So we had some very serious meetings with the teachers, and when we showed them the graph of what grades were being given, awarded, versus what the MAP was telling us about those very same students in their classrooms, there was a oh my moment. It was a silence that, you know, stopped the room for a while. And then we said, okay, that's okay. That's something we're going to work on, and that we need to. Once we discovered that, as a leadership team, we realized that we can't keep our hat on this. This isn't fair, and it's not good for the students to keep awarding them these super high grades when they're not relevant to what the students really know, and the fact that here we're having 8th graders move on to other schools that think they're getting A's in grade 8, but can't perform at that level. So there's that false sense. So then we went to our parents committee and showed them the exact same graph. And that was a scary day for me. It was an interesting conversation with them. And once they got over the chasm between the numbers, they understood what our next step was going to be, which was we need to get those two things reconciled. We have to be able to find the balance of how are we going to catch up a student who is 2 to 3 grade levels below and still teach the curriculum, you know, that they deserve to get in that grade level. And so, excuse me, so we had to ask that question, how do we bring these students up, all right? How do we teach grade level curriculum at the same time? How do we create independent learners? How do we teach individual children? So every student, as we say in our vision and mission, every student has their own learning path, all right? And then how do we gather reliable data so that we can reflect on what we're doing and make the classrooms active? And the answer for us was Exact Path. So we had toyed with it a little bit prior to this, but we didn't really know how deep it went. Exact Path allows us to give the students time to catch up to their grade level, what's going on in their classrooms. At the same time, it gives the teachers data that helps them differentiate and helps them be able to translate the grade level curriculum into lessons in their classroom every day. So that was kind of the advantage for us in Exact Path. But that meant that we had to make some changes. Mr. Jeff, you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Thank you, Lee. If we go back to where Exact Path starts, it essentially starts with MAP. And we had integrated MAP as in our community, in our classrooms, the year before by having a lot of incentives that were based around MAP. We all know it's about growth. And we incentivized our MAP, and when our students took tests, we rewarded them and awarded those who are our high flyers, our high climbers, those were at the top. And we recognized those who had the greatest growth gainers. So we incentivized that, and we shared our student goal setting worksheet so students knew their growth. And so it became a conversation that was a part of our community's culture and our classroom culture. So when we partnered with Exact Path, and as you can see from our mission statement with individualized learning pathways, we felt like we had found a perfect partner. We had found a place that were going to take our MAP scores and enable our teachers to see their students at the level they were at, not where we expected them to be or wanted them to be, but they were going to be connected to work with the skill level and the level they were at. So we implemented Exact Path. Danny came over, she gave us the training about how to set up our classes, how to maneuver it, what reports we would run, how to run challenges. And we started in term one, and we gave it to our teachers and said, let's go. What we found is that in term one, Exact Path kind of acted as a learning lifesaver that was floating on the water. It was there, and we had a few students that were going and grabbing a hold. We had a few teachers that were connecting students to Exact Path, but it was just there floating as this curriculum tool in classrooms that some people were, trusting and holding on to, but they were just treading water. They weren't trusting enough to dive deeper with Exact Path. And so we began to think about how we can, again, make this a part of our culture inside the community and the classroom. So what we did is we did the same thing that we did with
Want to share, Jeff?
Yep, I want to share. And I think you'll see this here. This was right after we got back from term one. When we started in January, we had a to the top trophy tournament where the students in grades 1 through 8, because we didn't have grade 9 at that time, were challenged to meet a learning time goal. And I think in grade 1 and 2, it was somewhere around 20 minutes, and the increment went up from there to, I think, in grades 8, it was somewhere around 45 minutes. But those students who reached their goal, you can see what we did is we gave them a trophy. So at the end of that, if you met your goal, we have big days, and we brought out in the morning, and we recognize those students by calling them up. And you know how students love to hear their names. You know how parents love to hear that their students' name were called out. And so everybody began then to get more interested in Exact Path and seeing it as a classroom tool. If we can just look real quick, though, you can see on the left-hand side in kind of 1 through 3, we have classes of about 28. So you can see where we had about 2/3 of our class normally reaching that goal. But when we get down to middle school, as you may expect, those numbers significantly started dropping off. where we have 20s in the primary, you know, we're having 410 in middle school. So how then can we connect those kids to that platform on ExactPath? So the next thing we did is we looked at the data. I want to make sure you can see the graph. Can you see the graph? Awesome. So this was at the beginning of the year where we began to, like now in term 3. So let me backtrack just a little bit. That To the Top trophy tournament ended at the end of January. We recognized our kids, we had that momentum going, but you'll remember at the end of February, we went into this COVID crisis. And so our schools essentially became empty buildings and all of our students went home and that we're now learning online. So how do we continue to track this and show that we're monitoring it? So we began to put the data together on average time spent, skills mastered, and the passing rate of those students who were interacting with those platforms. So we began to look at the data and we began to see that this is how it was looking, which wasn't very user-friendly to our staff. We continue to keep the data, but then we broke it down into this, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second. But we can see like in grade 1, we can see the trend from week 1 in term 3 to week number 14. Grade 2, grade 3, which is the one that I kind of want to point out. In grades 1 and 2, it was kind of a part of the classroom culture more, but you can see in grade 3, we're in week 1, very little use. And then when we get toward the end of term 3, you can see that these numbers continue to start growing. So I'll just kind of go grade 3. So you can see that in grade 3, 4, 5, in grade 6, in grade 7, these trends started to move upwards. Why was that? Well, now we took this data and began to communicate that to our staff. So let me break this one down. And how did we do that? So because our staff was at home, one of the things that we've done is we wanted to continue that communication, because the only way that it becomes a part of our classroom culture and our community is if we continue to communicate about it. So we were sending video messages to our teachers that outlined the data. I'm just going to share about 30 minutes of this video with you so you can see how we were communicating. But I'm including you so you can see the data and the numbers and what we're seeing, because ExactPath will continue to grow in our school as its use is growing in our school. So really for our grades 3 and 8 teachers and grades 1 and 2, I wanted to show you how the numbers have changed from week 9 to now week 11, which was last week. So let me show you my screen here. Okay. I know Mr. Ian has talked.
Having a hard time hearing the video, Jeff.
I've seen and pardon me.
Can't hear the video, and you as well. Just a little bit louder.
Okay. Let me stop this one more time, and I'll start to share again. Okay.
If you share your video sounds in the options.
Okay. I know Mr. Ian has talked to you about your learning path reports. I've seen and we've seen that you are sharing those reports and talking to your kids about their ExactPath usage, what they're achieving and what they're not achieving. But let's look at our time, average time on ExactPath from week 9, which you'll see in blue, week 10, which is our orange, and our week 11. Look what happened in grade 1. Relatively, we remain the same as we do mostly in grade 2. But when we get to 3, we see a nearly 3 times tripled the amount of average time that the students are spending in grade 3. That means they are listening and they are beginning to get into the routine of using ExactPath. So that was just to kind of show you how we first began to introduce it to our school community. And we started talking about time, but then we realized time was not exactly what we wanted to be talking to our school community about. So we switched it, has doubled. Now, down. These are the skills mastered that the students are mastering during the time that they've spent. So if you look here and you see like these low numbers in the week 9 and week 10, this is week 9. This is how many skills a grade 1 student was mastering, the average amount of skills that week this grade 1 student was mastering. Grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. So you can see in week 9, the skills that students were mastering were significantly low, meaning there were not as many students on exact path mastering skills, and they weren't mastering as many. Now, week 10 was Eid, but at the same time, look what's happened from week 10 to week 11. You've been emphasizing in your class more, and we've gone from grade 1 is mastering 4 times as many skills this week as they were. So just wanted to show like how that increase started and how that conversation of continuing to show, one, our staff, once your staff knows you're tracking the data and that you begin to talk to them and show them the data that you're seeing, ironically, they become more interested in the data themselves because they can see that someone's monitoring their class and monitoring their usage, who's doing it and who's not doing it. So you can see those numbers significantly increased. Try one more to break this one. Go from there.
Looks like Jeff froze.
And then you're going to see that this is week 11, which is 2 weeks ago, and this is last week. Okay. Again, you see average time, skills met, the passing percentage, average time, skills met, passing percentage. And so what are we seeing here? Well, as you can look, the real one that we're looking at is our skills mastered. Our skills mastered. And you can say, okay, well, let's look at average time and average time. If I look from week 11 to week 12, it looks like it's maybe gone down. That's not the case. Our average time spent improved in 88%, most of the grades between week 11 and week 12. And that's simply, wanted to share that with you because when we start talking about that in week 12, as we do here, we always use our ADDIC indicators. So with that, we begin to use the ADDIC indicators of almost all, most, the large majority, the minority, a few, so that teachers were then begin to speak to themselves that way and beginning to speak in their grade level meetings that way so that they understood that what we were doing in this growth was, as we always are, striving toward outstanding. And so what they know those ADDIC indicators mean. So what it goes back to is motivating our staff, motivating our parents, and motivating our students. How do you do that? We incentivized them. We incentivized Exact Path by rewarding students that were doing that. Ian's going to be talking to you about the summer challenge that happened just after term 3. So if you go back to January, the To the Top Trophy Challenge, we go into the COVID crisis. Then we start reporting the data and sharing that data with our teachers on a weekly email on Thursdays. There was even one email sent to the students, specifically the middle school students, because they were lagging behind in their usage. So we sent an email exactly the same way, explaining those graphs to our middle school students. So once again, they knew that this was part of the conversation that we were prioritizing, which moved it into assessment. So this is where we really see an increase in Exact Path usage that I know we're going to be talking about when we made Exact Path a part of our assessment practice.
Jeff, once we started sharing the Exact Path data with the students, how did that affect their behavior and how did it give them the ability to discuss these things with their parents?
Oh, I think, one, we always talk about their individualized learning paths and their individual growth, and that we're not concerned about a MAP score. We're at that, like 170, but it began to be that the students were kind of educating their parents about what the usage of Exact Path were, what it was doing for them. And then because the parents were recognizing their students were being recognized for their students' usage, they began to catch on to the conversations that were driving Exact Path use at school and why we were using it and why we were assigning it as a climbing tool as part of our curriculum.
Cool, thanks. You guys want to continue with the slide? You and Summer?
Yeah, thank you very much. And from there, last year, we started to have student-led conferences where students, they had to lead the conferences in the presence of their teachers and parents, of course. And the MAP scores and the exact path was part of that conversation for sure. And we're working hard to have the internal assessments as part of that conversation as well. So we continued working with our teachers on our internal assessments, and we're still training our teachers nowadays to design reliable and valid assessments. And we found a way now to insert exact path into our assessment policy with as part of assessment components. And if I may share my screen, please, Mr. Lee.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to show you right now is our assessment policy. I'm going to start with the assessment policy here. So we modified our assessment policy in trimester 3 because we still wanted to report valid assessment to the parents. Valid, yeah. So this is our assessment policy in here.
Taking a moment.
Yep. Can you see it now? Perfect.
Got it.
So we modified our assessment policy, and now we see it working very well, even with the hybrid learning, not totally distance learning. And you can see in this box here the components that are going to be evaluated and assessed, and part of it is the Edmentum reports. So Edmentum reports goes from grade 1 up to grade 9, of course, in language, reading, and math. We're still waiting for the science. And here it has a description, so the students know exactly what to do and what reports in there. And that is also published on our school's website if you want to have a further look at that. And we broke that up. So the components were also broken up by different cycles. So here is the weighting for the different cycle. So I'm going to show you an example here. So this is the component of the Edmentum report. And this is, we're talking about primary, which goes from grade 1 up to grade 5. And as you can see, it constitutes 15% of the final grade. So 15% of the final reporting grade goes to Edmentum reports. On the teacher's grade book, the 15% is divided into 10% is the number of challenges that the students complete within the trimester, which is assigned on a weekly basis in language, in reading, and in math. And the 5% goes to the skills they master in their learning pathway. So this is how we divided that. Our students are well aware of that. Our teachers are taking the exact path seriously, very, very seriously, as the results that Mr. Jeff displayed. So that is it. May I have the presentation back displayed, please?
Of course.
Thank you. So after exact path became part of our assessment practices, what we did is we created a triangulation of data. So now we are able to track and monitor the students' attainment and progress using the MAP reports, using exact path skills mastered and the number of challenges completed, and also aligned with our internal assessments. And we have noticed that our questioning techniques are now different. They're more challenging, based to be aligned more with the other sources of reliable data that we are using to measure the students' progress. Okay, I'm ready to hand it now to Mr. Ian, who's going to explain to you more about the reports, skills reports of Edmentum.
Okay, before you do that, I just want to say to the principals and those who field parent phone calls, do understand that when we went to this kind of triangulation of data, the grades that we were publishing went down. They were much more authentic. And so we had a lot of conversations with parents because their complaint was, your school level's going down because my son is now getting a C instead of an A. No, your son always should have been getting C's. What we are doing is we're focusing on the growth. And if you will talk to your son about this, and our students down to second grade can understand that this was my RIT score during the fall, and this is my RIT score during the spring. So I grew this much. Our students understand that. And so it does take some time to get your parents into this understanding that this is about growth. We want the kids to climb to their grade level and above, but you got to start where they are. We can't start where we are. Okay, sorry, Ian, go right ahead, sir. Mic is off, buddy.
Oh yeah, I'm back. as you saw from Mr. Jeff's graphs at the beginning, you could see the big jump towards the end of trimester 3, when we told all the teachers, we told the parents, we told the children that it's going to be part of their report card. So we didn't want to lose that growth, and we didn't want to lose that enthusiasm that the children had for ExactPath now that they were used to it and they were actually enjoying using it. So we came up with a Summit Summer ExactPath Challenge. Now this was a time-based challenge that they had 7 weeks to complete throughout the summer. It ranged from grade 1s had 420 minutes, so they had 1 hour a week to complete in math, and they had 1 hour a week to complete in English, in reading and language. And it went all the way up till 800 minutes for grade 8. Okay, so the time was quite significant, but we managed to have 167 students completed it throughout the course of the summer, which is good going, considering a lot of the children, teachers included, kind of want to zone out for the summer, but we didn't really want to lose the progress we had made in the last 4 or 5 weeks of term 3. Now, after doing that challenge, what we learned is, so this was a time-based challenge. And as we know, kids get technically savvy as they get older. So children were logging in and they were leaving it run and they were building up the time, but they weren't necessarily mastering skills. So this year we had to try and incentivize the kids a little bit differently. So we've come up with new challenges this year. So each week we still do our time challenges. It ranges from 60 minutes to 100 minutes. Throughout the course of term 1, we will do 10 challenges, 10 time-based challenges, and that equates to 10% of our report card. But time wasn't enough because it wasn't correlating between them progressing as learners. So we introduced 2 different challenges based on skills mastered. So each fortnight, we have a bi-weekly champion. And this is just inside in the class, so a class of 25 to 30. We will choose 1 winner each week or each fortnight, and this child will be the child that has gained or mastered the most skills in that fortnight. Okay, we'll have a winner for English and a winner for math. These rewards range from homework passes to sitting in the teacher's chair to creating a quiz for the rest of your class, things like this. It varies from grade 1 up as far as grade 8. And children really got enthusiastic about it. But the big one we came up with was a monthly challenge. So a monthly champion for our different grades. So we picked 1 winner from grade 1, from all the grade 1 classes combined, 1 winner from grade 2, etc. Now, our biggest challenge was, because of the pandemic, we don't have all kids in school. We have some at home, we've some in 1 week, we've some in the other week. So how could we reward them together? Now, I know some of you work and teach in this country, so you know how competitive and jealous parents get, and students alike. So we came up with a system where each champion, so there'll be 1 champion from grade 1, 1 from grade 2, right through the school. And we created a video to recognize those champions. I'll just show you a little snippet of this video, just maybe 30 or 40 seconds. I just need to share the computer sound. And I'll be okay. So. Okay, so as you can, So as you can see, it was just simple pictures or videos that the kids sent us from home, acting like a champion. Now that was October, so we're only into November, so we've only had one of those competitions. But the feedback has been very, very good, and we got plenty of compliments, but also complaints from parents. Why isn't my child being recognized? Which is a good thing. So we're hoping in November our skills will increase again, because all parents over here anyway and in our school want their children to do well. That was individual rewards. And then we came up with a whole class reward also, which is based on skills again. So we pick one winner from the 4 grade 5 classes, we pick one winner from all the grade 6 classes, etc. And they get to have a movie party in the month. Once again, it was kind of hard to think of a reward that everyone could enjoy, the kids at home and the kids in class. So these rewards will vary. But looking at the data again, the increase between November already, and we're only 17 days in, from October is significant. So incentivizing the kids is really working. Okay, so they are the challenges we are facing at the minute. Now, moving forward, our next steps as a school. So we kind of played around with the idea of a time-based challenge and a skill-based challenge. All of this work the kids can do on their own. But moving forward, we needed to put a strategy in place to benefit the teachers. So we can personalize and individualize our teaching. I'm just going to show you 1 or 2 reports now. So recently we completed our map testing, and all the kids' map testing was inputted into the exact path, and it generated learning paths for our kids. But what do these learning paths tell us? If I was a grade 3 maths teacher and I clicked on my skills report and I was starting to teach number sentences, I would know that 63% of my class are not ready for grade 3 number sentences. So I would need to move down a level. I can't teach them grade 3 level, or I can't introduce grade 3 level curriculum yet. Okay, so these reports, as we move forward, are going to help our teachers with their planning and their to be able to see the kids' different progress. Now, as Mr. Lee said at the beginning, it was quite difficult to explain to the parents why they're no longer getting A pluses when a grade 5 student was at a grade 2 level. Exact Path also shows us that type of report. So I have the names blocked out for obvious reasons, but Mohammed, for example, is meant to be in grade 3. His mom or dad is giving out that he's getting a B or a C. Clear as day, it tells us straight away Mohammed is not at a grade 3 level. He's at a grade 2 level, a grade 2 level, a grade 1 level, a grade 1 level, and a grade 3 level. Moving forward, we need to use these reports to influence our teaching, to let our teachers know that you cannot start on grade level curriculum if more than half or almost all of your class are below grade level. Okay, so that is what our next steps are. Next steps. So Mr. Lee, do you want to go back to the PowerPoint, and I can give a few PowerPoint or a few tips to the teachers and staff.
Right, do you want to share it, or shall I? Go ahead.
Will I share it? Perfect.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm in the unique position of the 4 of us that I am a teacher as well. Okay, so I know the issues that parents and students have firsthand, but also I know firsthand the perks of it and the benefits, which far outweigh any complaints that we have. The 3 biggest tips I can give all of you would be teachers. There are many, so many of us here are all from international schools. So many of your teachers will not be totally familiar with the curriculum. So me, for example, I'm from Ireland. I'd never taught an American curriculum until I came here. Exact Path tells you all you need to know. It tells you if you're a grade 5 teacher, every single thing in the curriculum that you need to teach is on Exact Path in a clear and simple way. Okay, so use it. It helps you enormously. Okay, it does the hard work for you. Tip for parents and students is combined. The biggest tip I can give any one of you who's a parent or has a student with any questions is do it yourself. We've had issues because it's online learning and we've had kids at home. We have parents that think that the better they do in their learning path, the more it will help their score, which is not the case. The better they do in their learning path, the harder it gets. And then when parents aren't around to help them, they're complaining it's too hard. So leave them do it on their own. This is your path, no one else's. Okay, so that is the biggest thing you can tell parents or students. A learning path should be done on their own.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, we were able to spot where parents were over involved. I think the beginning, was it last year, you guys, where we had a first grade student master all of first grade by the end of October? Yeah. So obviously that lights up a flag for us, and and we have to have a conversation with that parent. And we're going to be still kind of battling that, as this goes forward. But the more that the students own this and understand that this is my path, this is just for me, Ahmed, this is just for me, Muhammad, this is just for me, Farah, that's theirs. And so they want to take pride in it. And they want to be able to look at their own reports and say, this was me 2 months ago, this is me now. I've done this myself. And the more you kind of embed that in your conversations with the students and the parents, then the more effective the program becomes. And the reports that we get out of it are helpful classroom-wise. They're very helpful from an administrative point of view, and right down to what the students get to see as well. So it really provides so much work and data analysis that we would normally not have in reading, in language, and math, which is another thing we haven't mentioned. You have to keep in mind when we're talking about times, you're talking about 3 different subjects, okay? So when we first started talking about exact math, we were just saying, oh, is an hour too much? Is it too much? Well, no, it's an hour for 3 different subjects. So we don't want to, overwhelm them with it. But we know that the more practice that they're getting, then the more they're growing. Go ahead and go to the last slide, and I think we'll wrap up here. Okay, so I'm not doing this without their permission. I've given you their emails and mine as well. And if you guys want to take those down and ask any questions, we love to talk about Exact Path. We love to talk about the way our students are engaged and our teachers are engaged with it. And we're just really proud. It's been a full team effort. You can't have 4 people running the whole thing. You've got to have, and you all know this, you've got to have your whole staff really buying in and engaging with it. And once again, I think it was Ian and Mr. Jeff said, once the teachers know that you are monitoring this, that you're pulling accurate, real data from it and showing that to them, they realize, okay, this is something for those who are, late adapters. This is something that I really need to get involved with because it works, not because they're telling me to do it, but because it works. Okay, so we'll end there. Do any of you guys have anything that you want to say before we hand it over to Gareth?
Maybe just to echo that when we purchased Exact Path, I think and I don't think it's revealing anything. It's not enough just to put it in the classroom until you make it a part of the classroom culture. And again, through incentivizing it and showing that you're using the data as Lee's talked about, Ian, and then you make it a part of the assessment measure. It's something that they need some encouragement to attach themselves to in order to climb with it. So it takes some time.
Great. Thanks, everyone. That's really, really useful. I really found it fascinating, sort of the amount of different initiatives that you've put in place over this time. I mean, how long has it taken? When did you start this process?
This is our second full year. We piloted 2.5 years ago in a classroom or 2 with our kind of early adapter type people. And then we saw how well they took to it and what it was producing for us. So then we went full on in 18, 19, and but we didn't go full on, we went grades 2 to 8, because we didn't think, because the first grade ones weren't doing MAP, that it would be any help. But when we piloted in grade one, we saw that they were engaged with it. So then in the second year, this last year, we added everybody. So it's 1 through 9 right now.
Brilliant. And what sort of, you mentioned a few of your challenges that you had over that time. Was that entire process smooth, or what were your sort of challenges in getting this implemented fully into the school, would you say?
Anybody? Go ahead, you guys.
I think for primary school, it was from grade, as you said, we started with grade 2, but grade 1 to 5 was very, very easy. They really do enjoy it, and it's adaptive because grade 1 and 2s have a different looking learning path to grades 3, 4, and 5, and then grades 6 to 9 have a different one again. So it was nothing really to do with the program, but it was just general grade 6 to 8s or 9s, trying to get them to do the work when they couldn't really see any reward at the end of it. But as soon as we start to bring in challenges and rewarding those kids, we have seen the numbers shoot up. But from the beginning, really, grades 2 to 5 have enjoyed it in using it, and they have taken part. So we haven't had much trouble with the primary section.
Yeah. And what did the, go on.
Physically, for the 1s and 2s, we have them using the touchscreen Chromebooks versus the keyboard onlys, because their keyboard skills, their motor skills aren't quite there yet. So that's an important thing for those of you who are purchasers.
Yeah. And in terms of the actual implementation, you touched on sort of the PD sessions, but what did that look like? Was it an ongoing process, or was it just training at the beginning? What was the implementation like for you?
It was an ongoing process. Because it correlates with MAP. We typically were having MAP Mondays every Monday. So as MAP, as you know, it doesn't change. So after our staff were familiar with MAP and it was a part of that culture, we just kind of overlaid Exact Path into those PDs. So it was a natural, again, partner with the way that we were delivering our instruction. So it did take through term 1 to kind of get our staff to grab a hold of its usefulness, but that was quickly revealed in term 2 when we started to recognize the kids, and the staff started to climb on board much better as well.
But I think our learning curve, Ian, you'd speak better to this. When we did the teachers only training, there was nothing more than like 30 minutes at a time. It's very kind of user friendly for the teachers. Would you agree, Ian?
Yes, definitely. And once you show it to them once, like they know it, it doesn't change. So even for the new staff this year that joined us, we had a lot of new staff, maybe 20 new staff. I think I've only done 2 30-minute trainings with them, and they're all well capable and they know how it works now. So no, it is very user friendly and it's kind of self-explanatory.
We've had some questions come in. I know, Jeffrey, you wanted to answer one of these questions that's come in. How well do the gains in reading, language, math skills correlate with PSAT, SAT, and AP scores?
It's a little bit easy for us to answer there because we're only in grade 9. We can't speak to how that has connected us there. However, you know, I would like, you know, to also promote that the growth that we're seeing on MAP, we do attribute to a lot of things. Of course, our classroom teaching and our teachers, our parents, our students' awareness, but also to a curriculum partner like Exact Path, because it's a perfect pedagogy partner if you're using MAP. You know, so we do not know, but we can definitely see that the MAP growth that we continue to see, I think, is evidence that we're following the right path.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and in terms of Edmentum side of things, I mean, it does correlate to the Common Core, so it does go towards those skills. And we have other programs as well that help with SAT prep and AP prep as well. So we sort of have different things that can support schools depending on what you are looking for. I know a question here come in. Does this reduce your time on planning and admin, etc.? As we all know, a lot of teachers' workload is admin. So does Exact Path reduce your time from an admin and planning perspective?
I think it definitely does. The reports that, well, sorry, if you're using it with MAP, it definitely does, because as soon as you complete the MAP, it generates the reports for you. So it tells you what grade level they're at. And it also helps you with your planning, because it breaks down for each different grade. It breaks down what you need to teach, what strands, and in what particular order to get through the whole curriculum. So yeah, and in every topic, not to go too technical into it, but let's say you're doing multiplying single digit numbers. If you go into that strand on Edmentum, there are lesson plans available there. There are worksheets, there are videos, there's everything based on that strand. So if you follow the lesson plans, it breaks it down for you.
And if I may add to that, please. So what we did recently with the grade 1 and 2 report cards, which is internal report cards, we changed our grades 1 and 2 report cards into skill-based report cards. And the skills that the teachers are reporting on that report card is taken directly from the Edmentum curriculum. So these are the strands or the skills the teachers are reporting on our internal report card by the end of the trimester.
I couldn't have answered it better myself. Thanks. We had one, I'm not quite sure what this means. I'm assuming it's a teacher thing that I'm not as savvy with, but we are struggling at the moment accessing DL. Has this improved using ExactPath? I'm not sure what DL stands for. Do you?
Distance learning.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So does it help with distance learning? Has ExactPath helped that? But obviously you've had that since this whole year. So what's that experience been like?
It was it absolutely helped us. When we went suddenly, those who were in the UAE remember, it was a Thursday decision to go to distance learning the next week. And because we had ExactPath, that really helped support our curriculum. It was a gift, to be honest with you. Don't get too crazy about it, Gareth, but it was a gift. We were really happy to have ExactPath, and because we could guarantee that we would still be able to continue our vision and mission. We never wanted to, because of the pandemic, scale back what it is we're offering. We have not, during any of this period, reduced the curriculum we're offering, and ExactPath has helped us stick to our vision and mission by saying we still are creating individualized learning paths. We are still teaching to each student who climbs on the rope with us, and ExactPath is the way that's helped us do that. So yeah, for distance learning, it's been great. And you saw early in the presentation, Ms. Semar, brilliantly worked it into our assessment policy, and the parents were grateful for our kind of transparency that we explained to them, and we've had no pushback on that assessment policy, none.
Brilliant. And we've had other schools that have said the same thing, especially if it's already implemented in the school as well. If the school has to be off for any reason, then ExactPath is there as that continuity to say you're doing this in school already, you can continue with that, and that's part of it.
Right.
Just the last couple of questions. So we've got, I've lost it. How often do you do the MAP test to compare with how the progress has been using Edmentum? How often do you do your MAP tests?
We do MAP tests 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. This year will be different. We will not do it in the winter to protect some instructional time and to save some online assessment time. But typically each year we take it 3 times.
Okay. And then do you only run ExactPath, or do the students work on the program during the lesson in class, or when do they work on it? So do they do it in lessons and at home, or specifically in one area?
Yeah, this year we introduced a climb time. So every day inside in class, it can range from 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. They'll work on as we've kids at home and in school. So it's a good way of working with one group and getting another group working on their learning path. But they can do it in school or at home. We use it for both. So depending on if they finish the challenge in school or if they need to continue it at home, but both, it works very well.
Great. And then one last one, sorry, Lee.
Before the pandemic hit, we had what we called climbers classes in school, where the kids were double blocked So they had 80 minutes, and the teachers would do rotation stations, with one of the stations being exact path. So they would do a hands-on activity at one point, then a direct with the teacher at one point, and then an exact path, and the kids would rotate through those groups. So we've used it both ways. We used it inside the classroom and external.
Brilliant. And then one final one. How long did it take to train your staff on it? How long was that process? Was it quite quick?
Ian, yeah.
Yeah, as we said, we started in 2018, 2019, and straight away you can start using it, but it's kind of getting to know what it means and how to use the data that it tells you takes longer, but kids are learning and progressing from day one. So as soon as the learning path is generated, then it's self-explanatory. The kids, yeah, it's very, very easy. An hour-long PD and teachers would be able to use it and would know what they're doing.
Yeah, for those of you that have been in education for a long time, like Jeff and I, if you've implemented software before, usually there's this implementation dip afterwards because people kind of fall off the excitement of it. We didn't experience that with ExactPath. Because it was so easy for the teachers to understand how to use it, they took it and ran, and we were starting to have visitors to office say, do you know this is happening with my ExactPath? Or do the teachers are having their own aha moments by looking at it because the reports come to them so easily, and it's so easy for them to get a look at their classroom without having to grade individual papers necessarily, and then create their own spreadsheets. The information's right there at their fingertips, so it's quite simple.
Brilliant, thank you. And just a couple of questions that I can cover off. It can be used in KG. There's a couple of questions, which is right. You can be using KG2 upwards, so it's KG2 to 12. And then what we're going to be doing tomorrow, we have two webinars, where they're the same webinar but repeated. One at 9 o'clock GMT and one at 4:30 GMT, where we're actually going to be going into ExactPath in a lot more detail. So if you want to join that, we're going to be sending an email out to all attendees to register for that. And we can actually go through ExactPath and what it looks like and go through specific program questions during that webinar. So please do join us if you have the time. But I just want to thank you all again for taking the time to put this webinar together. It was really, really fascinating. And thanks to all the attendees for joining. I know it's really busy people part of your day, so I really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you, everyone, and see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Yeah.